I was looking up because I had mentioned that, I didn't ever hear Charlie Kirk bring up modern day slavery, trafficking, and I always thought that was rather strange since it was Trump's number one goal. However, all of the never Trumpers and the media, even to this day, never really want to fully give the credit to what Donald Trump deserves. Never. They haven't. It's been how many years now? 8? Yes, 7, 8, going on 8. I mean, he started doing something about it in 2017 by getting Epstein off the street immediately, but he was already, that was his number one goal. He has never has the man been given credit like he should. I don't even think that there's the amount of credit anybody could give him. I don't even think some award would be enough given how much he's done in that area. I mean, in his first term, most importantly, and I would imagine even now, his number one goal was to end slavery, to end trafficking. Talk about putting women first. And when I saw it, seeing all of the different stories, every woman that would come in, and it was because there was a safe house in my county because of his executive orders. They had so many different stories, and given that tomorrow's Thanksgiving, it made me think of it because one girl, she ended up going to her death. And in the worst way. I'm not even going to say it just because it was like the day before Thanksgiving. And I mean, she wasn't in the hospital, but the director of the safe house told me about it. So I've wondered, why didn't Charlie Kirk, this was Trump's number one, thing. And nobody wanted to talk about it, even to his supposed greatest supporters. But Kirk was, in the beginning, a never Trumper. He was. And back in 2015, he was a never Trumper. So what he did say about this, but he didn't have enough insight, but he was just up to no good, okay? So he had spoken about modern day slavery and human trafficking with concerns emphasizing the gravity of the issue. He has described it as a harsh reality where many are trafficked and used as modern day slaves, asking for divine intervention. He also mentioned, why was he asking for that? Trump was the divine intervention. He was. I've never seen anybody do as much as he was doing for trafficking. I mean, it was above and beyond, even to this day. But I wouldn't expect Charlie Kirk, the never Trumper, to really, even him, give Trump the credit he deserved. He also mentioned children as a significant portion of modern day slavery. Yeah, that's the other lie that's been told, and Trump has corrected it at times too. He would know best. The number one group is not children that are trafficked. It is young women between the ages of 18 and 25. That's who they really want. They want them more than the kids. Yet when this country had to start talking about trafficking, they focused it all on this kid thing. And I kept doing videos saying, wait, look, I took care of these victims because of his safe house that Trump had in his exec. So I saw these women first. There was no children. It was all what he said, these young women between 18 and 25. Nobody was below. I don't think I had anybody that was 18. I think the youngest I had was 19. And the oldest I had was 23. That's the group they want the most. Of course, Charlie Kirk wouldn't want to talk about that. He hated women. So in order to talk about trafficking, he would have to focus it on children. However, they're not the first number one that traffickers want. They are trafficked, but they're not the ones they want the most. It's young women they want. But do you want to know why this ever still has gone on our entire history, going back to the beginning of, after this original sin, which it should have stopped after Jesus came, but men are responsible. I mean, literally, because of this masculinity bullshit. It is. Because God never had anything to do with masculinity. It was man created it. Are men stronger than women? Clearly, okay? But this whole masculinity construct, that Kirk created around himself and acting like a little baby. I mean, he didn't even have any masculinity, which is what annoyed me. It's like here, the person that doesn't have any masculinity is going to tell everybody what they need to do to have masculinity, and then would go as far as being such a baby that men will leave society if masculinity doesn't return. Talk about a passive, aggressive threat. So the thing is that I don't know if anybody's ever brought it to man's attention, okay? Is that because they created this masculinity, God didn't. And because they created their masculinity, and throughout all of history were oppressing women, selling women, just seeing women as less than, and that just became the new inherited sin that men continue to pass down. Now these men that want to tell women again what they should do when they keep the whole world in sin. They do, because see, you've inherited this masculinity problem down to every generation, which isn't a good thing because it leads to this. I'm not saying there's a healthy masculinity. Take the example of Trump. Trump's a good example of healthy masculinity. It's not about all this stuff these lunatics that didn't have masculinity talk about. But literally, it is because of that. Man has kept us in sin, because here's what's most important. This is from, obviously, after the original sin, what God said to Eve. To the woman, he said, I will surely multiply your pain in childbearing. In pain you shall bring forth children. Your desire shall be for your husband, and he shall rule over you. Many say his desires will be against yours, but he will rule over you. So think about this, because this is what God would say to all, especially these Christian nationalist men, is just because I said this would happen didn't mean you had to do it. You still had free will you could have exercised. You could have brought people out of the curse much sooner, but instead you embedded the curse. They did. That's what they did. Because there's not any generation. It's gotten a little bit better over time, but you see what happens. You get the Charlie Kirks, the Turning Points, these dirtbag Christian nationalists that don't even know God, that'll say things as far as women shouldn't even be allowed the right to vote. So that's the reason God kept pushing women out there. No, because after Jesus came, Jesus wanted done with it. He didn't go and sacrifice himself, being a true man, and what he did just to see these baby men get created that didn't want to even ever have to look at themselves, because the fact is, men still had free will. They could have chose not to rule over the women, but at no time did they ever do that. So by them never exercising their free will to do the right thing, because God didn't take free will away. He just said this is what will happen. Just because he said it didn't mean you had to make sure it happened. That's the mistake man made. But here, carrying on about Eve was the one deceived. Yeah, once. Men have been deceived for 6,000 years now, keeping us all in darkness. I have nothing against men. I'm just saying I'm a big advocate of, let's just be honest about this. Because it is this that then leads to this whole identity of masculinity. And then God can't get in there, because I just talked recently about how with the ego and the masculinity shit that Charlie Kirk was talking about was a construct identity type thing. So I said when I got sober, the first thing God does with every alcoholic once we're defeated is he strips the ego and the identity, because he can't get in here and start repairing the heart and mind until that identity and ego is gone. So most of the men for the past 6,000 years, most of them, especially heading up the Catholic Church, they don't know God. No wonder they rely on the book so much. Because they're in their ego. They've never looked at they've kept the whole world in sin. We literally have modern day slavery, not just because of the men involved in doing it, because there's some women involved, but because of them never taking accountability that God didn't mean you had to rule over women. You could have exercised doing the right thing. But in 6,000 years, never has that been done. This is the reason you see these people like Charlie Kirk acting like big babies, no real masculinity at all, just big babies. They kept us in sin all this time.